There is so much to discuss. Hi everyone, today we're talking about Game of Thrones. Yes, again, because even though the season is over, doesn't mean we don't have questions and thoughts about season 6. So that's what I wanted to discuss with you today. Because we caught up with the books, I was able to go back and read all the comments you left on our reviews. Thank you guys so much. So much fun to read, and I've gathered a few of the comments and thoughts that I'm gonna include on this video as well. Some of them are gonna be relevant to what I'm discussing, and some are just fun. And also, spoiler alert, in case you haven't caught up with the show, although if you haven't caught up with the show, why are you watching a video about season 6? You've been warned. Let's start with the biggest question of them all. Is Jon Snow really dead? There are tons and tons of theories and thoughts about it. Most people think that he's still alive. I tend to agree because there are too many things that were put into place that would have no purpose if he just dies like that. If you've built so much into this character and you just kill him off without giving some answers, it seems a little bit like you're cheating the audience by not delivering what you've sort of promised over all this time. A few of the hints that Jon Snow might not be dead include the fact that the Night's King seems very interested in him. I mean, that stare off, and he didn't really go after him. He just kind of had the come at me crow moment. For me, it felt like it was to Jon specifically that he was showing off. So if Jon's dead, what was that moment about? Or he was just showing off in general, who knows? Then Melisandre also seemed to be very interested in Jon, looking at him in ways I did not like, telling him, you know nothing, Jon Snow, all these little hints that I'm like, come on. And she just happens to go back to Castle Black a few hours before they kill him. It seems like it would be such a waste of character if she doesn't at least try to resurrect him. And as we saw in season 3, the Lord of Light does have the power to resurrect people. We saw that Thoros used that at least 6 times from what he said. And there's also the mystery of who Jon Snow's parents are. So if you set up that mystery and then he dies, then there's no point in finding out who they are, but they seem to make a big deal about it, so it has to mean something, right? Right. There's a theory out there actually in terms of who Jon Snow's parents are, and if you're interested in learning more about it, I'm gonna talk about that at the end of the videos. And then there's also the theory that Jon Snow is Azor Ahai, the legendary champion that is sent by the Lord of Light. Melisandre actually thought that it was Stannis, but it looks like Stannis died, so it's probably not him. And if it's Jon Snow, then he can't really die. Or if he dies, then maybe he's resurrected as Azor Ahai, so maybe that's what's gonna happen. But it has to do with Melisandre. Personally, I think it's too big of a coincidence that Melisandre is there. There are too many connections, and I think that she will have something to do with him coming back. And if he's really dead, well, that sucks. What's going on with the Wildlings? So they've probably gone through the wall and to the lands that they were supposed to go to. So 2 things. Is the Night's Watch gonna go after them or just kind of let it be? And 2, what are they gonna do when they find out that Jon Snow has died, if he's really dead? Part of me thinks we probably won't have much time to delve into that because the White Walkers are coming and there are a lot of other things happening, but I'm just curious as to whether that will come into play. What will Sam do when he finds out Jon is dead? Because Sam left right before the mutiny. Don't know if there's much he can do, but obviously Sam and Jon were really close, so I'm guessing it's gonna have some sort of impact on him. Is Stannis really dead? Even though they don't technically show Brienne kill Stannis, I feel like she killed him. I mean, I guess I can see a scenario where she didn't, but it's more likely that she did. I think if you're gonna have the twist of, wait a minute, he's not really dead, you should just use it on one character, and I think in this case, it's more likely that Jon Snow's still alive than Stannis still being alive. What will happen to Trystane, who's now on the boat with Jaime and Bran and a dead Marcella? Some of you were wondering whether or not he kissed her and might have been poisoned himself. I personally doubt that because there was no setup for it. If he had been poisoned, they probably would have shown us Marcella kiss him at some point. At this point, it's whether Jaime and Bran will spare his life. Will they bring him back to Dorne? Or are they still gonna bring him to King's Landing? In which case, I don't know how Cersei is going to welcome him. Cersei's trial. Cersei got out of her cell, but she's still not safe from the High Sparrow since she's supposed to go on trial. Now, she does have the mountain Frankenstein creature now. So is there even gonna be a trial, or will she be able to shut down the High Sparrow? Especially now that she's back, she can talk to Tommen and maybe get him to go after the High Sparrow and his followers, or something like that. One thing's for sure, Cersei is out for revenge, and I think she won't rest until all the people that hurt her are dead. When will Tommen die? If you remember at the beginning of season 5, we have a flashback of Cersei going to visit Maggie the Frog, and she gets a prophecy telling her that all her children will die before her. Joffrey's already dead, Myrcella just died, so only Tommen's left, although he seems to be starving himself to death, so you know. I think he will die within the next 2 seasons. I'm not sure whether it's gonna be in season 6 or season 7, but we pretty much know that Cersei will be okay until he dies. The moment he dies, guys, we're gonna be on Cersei death watch. Is Arya really blind? That's something that I don't think was made really clear in the episode. It seems like she can't see anymore, but we don't know if it's just a temporary punishment or something that will last. Someone pointed out that apparently in the book, at some point, Arya wargs into a cat, although there's no indication that that's something they're going to introduce in the show. So I'm hoping she's not blind, because I really want her to continue going after her list of people. Although Joshua Wilburn pointed out that she could become a Daredevil type vigilante, in which case I'm all for that. What do the White Walkers want? That's something that is pretty unclear, and obviously from our perspective, they're the bad guys. They're trying to kill us. They raise the dead. It's not looking good. There are a lot of things we don't know about them, and maybe those things we don't know could change our whole perspective. Now, they're still scary as but I feel like we just don't know. We don't know what they want. We don't know why he was having the stare-off with Jon Snow, except for, you know, showing him what he's doing, but to what purpose? And why didn't they go into the water? How do their powers work? Can they turn everything into ice? Are they vulnerable to anything? You know, so many questions. And also we saw that they transform the babies that they take into White Walkers. So how many White Walkers are there? And are they all male? Because I don't think we saw female White Walkers. And since we have dragons in the show, of course, the question is, can the dragons defeat the White Walkers? Will fire burn them, defeat them? We know Valyrian steel and dragon glass certainly hurts them, so I'm thinking fire is probably not a good thing. But to what extent? Until a White Walker meets a dragon, we won't know for sure. What's Sansa's plan? So she's escaped with Theon/Reek. I think there are a couple of options for her. She could go to find Jon Snow at the wall, because she knows he's there now. She could also go and try and find her brothers, who she found out are still alive. She has to find some place that is safe, and I'm guessing probably at this point Jon Snow is the safest place for her, but maybe I'm not thinking about something else. I don't think she's gonna want to go back to Littlefinger, because, you know, he made her marry Ramsay and all, and kind of abandoned her there. So speaking of Littlefinger, what is his ultimate plan? We've talked about this in one of our reviews for this show, but at this point it just seems like he wants world domination. Really. But more specifically, he's looking to become Warden of the North. But since Sansa has escaped, don't know if that's gonna happen. It's really unclear what the end goal is for Littlefinger, because he's kind of all over the place, which I guess fundamentally maybe that's his plan. Just get to the top and play everyone. What is Bran up to? Now, the last time we saw Bran, he had just met the Children of the Forest, and we haven't seen him since. So what has he been up to? And more importantly, can he warg into a dragon? Because that's what I've been waiting to find out. How will grayscale affect Jorah? It seemed that Jorah and Daenerys had a moment, but will she forgive him? And if she does, will he be alive long enough to do anything about it? Now, we've seen the grayscale hasn't grown that much. It's still only on his arm. Will it continue to grow? Will they be able to find a way to stop it like Shireen? And also, how contagious is it? Do they have to touch the grayscale, or any contact is just bad? When Zhao pointed out that you have to touch the grayscale in order to transfer it, also that Jorah has been very careful about putting his infected area under wrist armor. Who is the leader of the Sons of the Harpy? A few people thought Hizdar might have been the leader, but he got killed, so probably not. Unless it was a fake out, which again, I don't think it was. I really think that he's dead. And if he was a leader, then he definitely was betrayed by his people. At this point, there's gotta be someone else that's leading them. Who is it? Is Daenerys going to release her other 2 dragons? They've been locked up long enough, I feel. And I just can't help but think that the more she keeps them locked up, the more pissed off they're gonna be when they're let out and frustrated. You just gotta let them fly. At least Drogon has been out and, you know, enjoying himself. Also, Alien in the Caribbean wondered whom the other 2 dragons would choose as riders, because Drogon chose Daenerys and she obviously can't ride all of them. So who is he gonna be? If Jon Snow is still alive, he's definitely one of them. And then the other one could be Tyrion, which of course these are the 3 people that I'm personally rooting for, so it would seem kind of appropriate, but who knows, it could be something completely different. Will Davos find out what happened to Shireen? At this point, he thinks she died in a battle, but will he find out that Melisandre has something to do with it? And if he does, what will he do with it? And this is a question from Kenny. Why was Uncle Benjen at the wall in the first place? Uncle Benjen is the character that the Night's Watch used to lure Jon to his death. We haven't seen him since season 1, and we don't know what happened to him. Now, there's a theory out there that he could be a character in the book called Cold Hands that hasn't been introduced in the show, but at this point it seems unlikely unless they introduce him in season 6 and kind of give us a background for it and all of that. But at this point, it's really possible that we'll never find out what happened to Uncle Benjen, except that he's just presumed dead. And those are all the questions and predictions that I have for season 6, but let me know if I forgot anything. And of course, I'd love to hear your answers to those questions. Do you have thoughts? Do you have theories? Let me know. I've also decided that I'm gonna be rewatching the entire series from the beginning. I've only watched it once so far, so it's gonna be so interesting to go back. And what I'm gonna do is review each season as I go along. So I will have 1 review each month for each season, and I will most likely start the first one in August. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to share it with your friends and family. Let's get everybody involved in the conversation about Game of Thrones. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye! So the theory about who Jon Snow's parents are is represented by R plus L equals J, and that means Rhaegar Targaryen plus Lyanna Stark equals Jon Snow. So the theory is that Rhaegar Targaryen, who is Daenerys' brother, and Lyanna Stark, who is Ned's sister, are the parents of Jon Snow. And the story goes that Rhaegar actually kidnapped Lyanna Stark, which led Robert Baratheon to go after them, which led to a war that led Robert Baratheon to kill Rhaegar. And that also led to the destruction of the Targaryens. Now that's how the Starks see it. When Sir Barristan tells the story to Daenerys, he talks about how much Rhaegar really loved Lyanna. So at this point, it's unclear whether they were really in love or if he really kidnapped her. This theory actually would explain why Ned Stark took in Jon Snow, and probably also why he never really told him who his mom is, because didn't want him to have to deal with the fact that his mom was raped, if that's what he believes happened. So if that theory turns out to be true, it would mean that Jon Snow has Targaryen blood and can possibly control dragons too, which would make him the perfect rider for one of the other two dragons. I personally like this theory, so we'll see if it actually comes true.